My name is Stan Baines, and I am your chair of this session and steering committee member of the Canadian Network for Imagination and Creativity, or CNIC for short. My fellow creative imaginatives in our steering committee with us this evening are scattered about on your Zoom screen somewhere. So, committee, if you could just give us a wave to let everybody know who you all are. Excellent. We are excited once again to be back in this gathering place and share with you our different topics from our hosts and guests from time to time, and then the discussions that happen afterwards with you. CNA's goal is to create and foster open, forward thinking dialogue as we look at things from different angles, look to find new, innovative ideas, see creativity and imagination from different backgrounds and perspectives, ask questions, and explore. It is our hope to expand our minds in new directions, collaborate through idea sharing, create partnerships in our differences, in our sameness, and in our beliefs. Let us find creativity through the exploration of our imaginations and ideas. As a resident of Clarence Rockland, Ontario, which sits just outside of the east end of the city of Ottawa, Ontario, I would like to acknowledge that at this time I am chairing our meeting on traditional unceded land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory and people. We spent yesterday in ignorance and uncaring. Today we stand in recognition of the wrong. Tomorrow we reconcile and walk towards a shared future. This is a space to learn, explore, and share. We want you to do that in your way to make this idea space your own. Not only do we want to hear your ideas and thoughts, but listening is equally as important. Reflect and participate your way. Our format is very simple. Once our hosts guide our discussions for this evening, we will open the floor for our chats and conversations to begin and see where our journey leads us during our time together. Zoom obviously is our platform for this discussion, so Zoom allows you to participate in many different ways. It has built-in controls that allow you to raise your hand so we can see you when you wish to join in the conversation. And as mentioned before, you can add things in our chat function, which helps keep the ideas and thoughts flowing. Share your ideas your way and join the jam. Thank you, my friends, as always, for listening to me. So let's get right down to business. For tonight's jam, we will be guided by Peter Gamwell, and this is going to be a really good one tonight. Let's see how making the extraordinary happens. Peter, over to you.
Thank you so much, Stan. I'm going to provide just a little bit of context. We have six wonderful guests, actually. We have, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to give the context first, and then we'll introduce those wonderful people as we get to them. So, a very good friend of mine is here. His name is Richard King. He's the principal of Osgood High School, and last year he ran a book club at the school on the topic of a book that's very close to my heart because I wrote it. Shameless self-promotion. It's called Thinker, Learner, Dreamer, Doer, and it's about finding ways of fostering innovative new methods of bringing out the brilliance that lies within everybody. Anyway, he asked me to go to the very last session, and it was a wonderful 3 hours, amazing conversation, inspiring, at the end of which teacher Jennifer Bonse said to me, "You need to come to my classroom now." And I said, "I'd love to, and I'm sure it's inspiring, but I've been waiting 8 months for a new car, and I'm picking it up at 1 o'clock. She said to me, "Well, won't it still be there tomorrow?" So I called the dealership and cancelled my appointment, wept for a few minutes, then went to her classroom. And what a decision that was. I was treated to what has happened was that some of the students had presented their final projects. Now, this is high school biology. I thought I'd walked into an art gallery. I kid you not. The work was stunning. So, and you can actually see this on my YouTube channel, which I'll provide a link to. I've got 1 or 2 of the now over 60 interviews that I've taken over the last 18 months with this remarkable teacher, Jen, and her brilliant students. So what I want to spend the time doing today is this. When you come across something extraordinary like that, my mind always goes to, so what's behind that makes that magic happen? What is it that switches on those kids to the brilliance within them and makes the learning matter to them? Now, Jen, one of the things, I think I've mentioned this to you before, is I think I've been into your classroom probably about 15 or 16 times now. I've never seen you lecturing. I've never seen you standing in front of the kids and delivering a lesson about biology where you impart your knowledge. Oh yeah, occasionally you'll bring things to a full group, but it's rare. So the biggest distinguishing thing for me is very often when I walk in, you've got triads of students around the class. What's that all about?
So the triads of students are random groupings of students working at the whiteboards. And they're doing a model called the Thinking Classroom, which started out in mathematics classrooms. It's a book by Peter Liljedahl. There's about 20 years of research behind it. And I started going to his math workshops and not teaching math, trying to kind of figure out the puzzle of how to bring this into my own classroom, science and biology. And I just started playing around with it. And right towards the end of the pandemic, they started to run sessions about how could you apply this to other classrooms. It kind of confirmed what I had been trying. And for the last several years, I've been using it really heavily in the classroom.
So to the uninformed, it would seem to me you're dealing with a very high level of science here, and I know this because I was involved in some of those conversations, and they went way above my head. How, without standing in front of kids and just giving them the information, how on earth do you lead them to those in-depth conversations where they're sort of making sense of it by themselves? How do you do that?
So my approach has been to either take a case study or an activity, a lab, a lesson, a more traditional lesson that I might have done in the past, and try to break that down into what we call thin slicing in the Thinking Classroom model. So you start with some questions around the previous knowledge that the students might have coming into the course, and they answer those at the whiteboard, and it's random groups every day. So they're always working with people with different skills. And then they just work slowly, and you give them information, pictures, graphs, ideas, and they can look at it, make sense of it, that these are new ideas that they haven't learned yet. And you progress till you get to sort of the goal at the end of the lesson that you might have done in the past traditionally. But now the students are using their critical thinking skills to figure it out themselves. And at the end, you do a consolidation where you move around the room and you make sure that everybody's on the same page and that they, the major ideas have come across.
And so that's the sense-making part of it. Let me go to one of the students because who would like to take a stab at this first? Shall we go with Casey? How about Casey? Casey, put your hand up so we know who you are. There's Casey. Casey and I have had many conversations and I've done many interviews with her. And an extraordinary young mind. Casey, when you first came across this approach, how different was it from other high school classes that you might have been into?
I'd say it was a lot different than what I was normally used to. I'm used to sitting down in a class, opening up my notebook, taking notes, listen to the teacher talk, and do a little lecture, whatever. It was really interesting to kind of have the learning in my own hands and kind of be able to figure it out myself, which is something I find that I really benefited from in comparison to other classrooms. Just because the fact that I was able to make those connections myself, which kind of helped me grasp onto the concepts better because I could just draw it from all of my previous knowledge.
Was it intimidating at first?
I mean, I'd say it was definitely new, uh, but it was something that you can kind of see the immediate payoffs of. So after even just one lesson of it, you kind of figure it out and you get it. Definitely at first being in a group with people that's randomized and maybe you're not with your friends, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but eventually it has more than just learning benefits. It has social benefits as well. Like you get to realize um, that maybe talking to other people outside of your comfort zone isn't so bad, and taking that step, even though it's like maybe uncomfortable or intimidating at first, it definitely it proved basically right away how rewarding that was.
Absolutely. Let's go over to Ryan. Ryan, do you have a similar perspective? Did you find it intimidating when you walk into a classroom where the teacher is not at the front, and where you end up speaking with a couple of other students, trying to figure the learning out for yourselves?
Actually, quite the opposite. For me, it was more comforting and welcoming since I am someone who has a lot of energy. So by standing up and going to the whiteboards, I was so much more comfortable than sitting down and having to prep myself to listen. because I'm used to, I'll get into a class, I'll sit down, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be listening this whole class. Instead of, I get to actually go to the board, I can stand up, I can stretch my legs, and I can talk to people, which is a huge factor in the way that I learn. Is
Yeah.
I do so well with actually like talking and discussing. So by having the opportunity to do that, even before we have a lesson, it's just so beneficial for me to even start thinking of what I might be learning and what I am going to be learning, and to be able to listen to what everybody else is saying instead of just relying on what's going to be done in a presentation or a lecture.
Thank you so much. Because I think this is such an important jumping off point, because when you walk into this classroom, it is so different to look at. Maybe we need to go over to Presley. What's your response to this? Is that an approach to learning that you embrace? Did you find it intimidating? Would you rather have somebody standing in front lecturing you?
I definitely think I was nervous with the approach just because I was used to having a teacher up in front and I was kind of used to learning that way. But once I kind of got used to it, it was a lot more welcoming and I really enjoyed it more to have that opportunity to work with others and learn in a different way.
Thank you so much. And Sophie, just to give you the last word on this one, how's it impacted on your learning? Why is it important for you, if it is?
It definitely is really important for me.
Mhm.
In agreement with Ryan and Presley and Casey, I found it at first it was definitely very new and a little bit uncomfortable, but over time, as we began to work together with other people in our classrooms, being up at the whiteboards, I definitely realized that my style of learning fits in very well with the thinking classroom because I find myself being much more open to talking to people and also collaborating with people at the whiteboards to be able to understand the skill set that they have and then the skill set that I have to bring to a problem that we're trying to solve. And
Mhm.
a lot of the times the idea of the thinking classroom comes in when there are more brains are better than just one. And so that definitely taken um, has kind of started off in that thinking classroom, and I've also brought it into other classrooms as well, where the traditional style of learning is still kind of in place, but I'm able to kind of work together with some of my friends who I know are learning in the same way that I learn, and I'm able to kind of carry that through into other classes as well.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Mhm.
as a student, you're taking the initiative to say, hello, I like this and I'd like to see this elsewhere, and you're doing something about it.
Yeah, definitely. Casey and I were actually in the same math class, and we've noticed together that we learn in a very similar way by collaborating.
Uh-huh.
And our math class is pretty small. And I noticed a lot of the times at the beginning of the semester that we were doing a lot of kind of copying down notes into our notebooks, but not really being able to work through the problems together. And so, even this past week, I realized that we've done a lot of collaboration together up at the whiteboards, and we have that opportunity in our classes. But then also, even outside of school, we've been able to collaborate through another class as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, all of you. I'm just going to bring up one more theme. I could bring up about 28 different themes now that emerged to me from this classroom that make it so different, but I'm going to bring up one more because it stands out for me. I think I mentioned earlier that when I first walked into the class, I thought I'd walked into an art gallery. And I am not joking. Some of the ways in which these youngsters are given permission to explore their understanding in ways that matter to them lead them to embellish their work and to explore that understanding through their artwork through many other different avenues as well. And there's a lot of project work that's done, high quality project. It's scholarly work. Jen, why is that so important to you? Why do you give them that open space?
Part of it is we do a portfolio, and through each unit of the course, the students get to choose a topic that they connect with. that we can connect somehow to biology. Sometimes they need a little bit of help with that, and sometimes they already have their own ideas, and they get better at it as we move through the course. And then they get to choose what format they'd like to show their work in. So it might be a verbal evaluation. They can do a traditional report, slideshow, if that's their comfort zone. But then I find students will, the next time, sort of branch out and try some of the other methods. They might do a pamphlet, a poster. I had a student who did a mural. I have a student who did their final project on a canvas. They did artwork. And it's just for them to be able to show their learning, highlighting the strengths that they have as person.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to explore this. I don't want to take up too much more time, but I do want to go to a couple of the students with this one. Would any of you like to speak to how that's been important for you, not just through artwork, but by being able to explore your learning in a way, using your own strengths and in a way that matters to you? Anybody like to have a go at that? Yeah, Ryan.
Hi. Yeah. So for
Hi.
me, I find that that's actually like crucial for my learning. Like I am not a huge high school person. I don't like to sit in a classroom. I pretty much won't motivate myself to do any work unless it's something that's really interesting to me. And I found that by doing biology with Miss Banse, I was able to directly relate it to the things that I'm extremely interested in. So I remember doing a portfolio project on exercise science, which was so much fun for me. I'm a competitive dancer, so I was able to dive into proper nutrition for athletes, proper exercise regimens for athletes, how nutrition can affect injuries. And I made a whole presentation. I think I talked for like 30 to 45 minutes of just like blabbing on about the things that I'm interested in. And it was directly related to what we had learned in the course. And I think that was kind of like an eye-opening experience for me because I went, wow, I actually learned stuff. Like I have a tendency to memorize. I'll get the grade on the test and then I'll forget it like within the next week. Like if you were to ask me what I learned, I'd be like, I have absolutely no clue. But with that class, I was able to not only learn it in the class, but then remember it. And I still remember it now. And that is a big thing for me because it doesn't come naturally for me to do that.
Ryan, thank you so much. That is so interesting. Of all of these interviews that I've done with yourself and your student body, your friends, your colleagues, that's probably the biggest theme that comes through when it comes to the importance of having a choice and a voice into how you express yourselves. And I would say of the 60 interviews I've done, 60 people have said, well, I remember it better. And it's not a surprise, is it? Very, very quickly, would any of the other students like to comment on that before we open it up to the floor? Yes, indeed. Go ahead.
I guess too, like I was a very similar experience to Ryan that I kind of just felt like I was on autopilot throughout school and I kind of had my strengths and things I wasn't as good at. But once we kind of switched to this environment of doing things we were interested in, I actually determined the things that I liked and was interested in. And I really got to learn more about myself and kind of where I'm headed. Instead of kind of being on autopilot, I got to have more enjoyment in school and learning.
So at the end of this, you've just given us the final question. How do we reshape learning across the education system to take us off autopilot? Because you're dead on, Presley. In many cases, that's where we are. And it's time to stop pretending we're not and to do something about it. Thank you so much. Okay, I think, Stan, we should open it up to the floor. We'll come back to Jenna and these students and to Rich, but let's open it to anybody else who would have questions or comments.
As an artist, I'm curious to know if you have documented any of the artistic images that were on the wall or in the learning.
Absolutely.
Funny you should ask.
Everything, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you can share with us or show us?
Sure.
Thank you.
So here's an example of, we do a course concept map at the end of the courses where the students pick an idea that they see as a thread through the course. So it needs to be something really personal to them. and then they don't write unit names. They just pull concepts that they saw tying to the central theme they choose, and they pick activities we did that tie to it, just any ideas that connect. And then they do an interview where they talk through the concept map, they connect it to their unit portfolios, and they just show what their vision and connection to the course was. So this is one of the simpler concept maps. There's not a whole lot of words on it, but the student had lots to say. And along with it, she created this. So you may not be able to see this perfectly on Zoom, but in this picture of the forest, there's peppered moths, which is an evolution example. There's a specialized woodpecker, there's deer, there's fungi and different types of plants adapting to their environment. So that's one example. There's another example that was just a unit task, not at the end of the course. This one was on evolution and climate change. And this, I'll zoom in on the different parts. So the student wrote about evolution and climate change and extinction of species, and she drew whales and all sorts of interesting things and talked about them. Also got, this was a unit on how our bodies work, how our metabolic system works, and it was written as a learning guide for others to understand that unit. So you can see, and then as you go into the booklet, the student's going through different parts of the cell, and I don't know if you can see that, how that ties to our energy systems in the body and all sorts of other things, connecting it to things in real life. There's sections on plants and how their energy systems work, and it's used as a learning guide. And I've got 3 others here. This one was a project for the diversity of life, and this one was on penguins. And the student goes through lots of different things about the penguins of the Galapagos. So there's maps and you know, the diet, the range, the habitat that the penguins live in. Sometimes the students get kind of humorous. Some of them do comic books for me. And here's another picture which has a map and talks about the migration of these penguins over time. Okay. And the last 2 that I have here were done by Sophie. And it's 2 books of poetry and learning that she, in grade 11, this one was on raspberry plants, and she has some poetry in there. She talks about the classification of raspberry plants and their life cycle, and it's all done in watercolor and on watercolor paper, and she tea stained the pages, and she was able to put a lot of creativity in there. And the other one she has is The Tale of Trees, what happens when they go into dormancy. So again, this has got watercolors, and she's got pine cones and all sorts of amazing things. This one in particular is really lovely, the life cycle of a tree through the seasons. And I mean, it just goes on and on. There's some really wonderful poems and learning in here.
Well, you're speaking to a watercolor artist, so I appreciate Sophie's work. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thanks, Jen. Fred.
I was quite excited when I heard Thinking Classroom was going to be one of the foci tonight. The research that Peter did, Liliadol did into Thinking Classroom started with him in the back of the classroom observing the autopilot and what he called studenting. All the games that kids would play to get out of actually working and learning and thinking, and even in their questioning. There was types of questioning. So I'll share a quick anecdote. I actually retired in order to take a second MEd with Peter because I wanted the Thinking Classroom model. I knew that it was going to do wonderful things. And so I needed a classroom to research in because I had retired, and one of the former cohort mentors that I had volunteered hers. And so I knew I was going in the afternoon to do a thinking classroom model with her class, but she wanted me to do math club at lunch. So the very first math club, I had an alien message intercepted that the kids were going to have to break down and figure out. And I came in dressed as a man in black. I had my little flasher and everything, and the room was dead. And I couldn't get them going. So I flipped it over into a thinking classroom model instantly. And the teacher did this and started to look around going, what just happened here? Why didn't we have a camera running to see the change in energy? Because the kids were so into it. And I just thought, okay, I've won her over. Didn't do anything on my part. It was just the fact that when the kids got together, and I think that a lot of us, especially those of us around our generation, were brought up on the acquisition model of learning, and we forget about the participatory aspect of learning. And I think that's what we are noticing when we start to do this. Not only is it participatory, it's visible so that you can look at other people and get inspired. And when we think about how our own creativity works, one of the models I would think of is like a comedy writing team. You feed off the energy of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Their ideas spark your ideas, and then your ideas in response to their ideas spark more ideas. And that's how I think the richness that Peter Gamwell is talking about comes about, is in through this interaction that you can see. And I remember one of the first models, I set up the random groups, and one of the kids came and, can we switch partners? And I looked at him and I said, if your teacher told me, would she say to put you two together? And they sort of went, oh, no. And I said, well, with this model, some of these times you're going to work together. And the rest of the time, you're going to learn how to work with anybody and learn how you can learn through others in different ways. And they went, oh, okay. And off they went. So I'll stop there. I could go on for hours. Great model. Thank you.
Michael, go ahead.
First of all, Jen, it's obviously that you're an inspired teacher, and that all of your students are incredibly lucky and privileged to have had experiences in your classroom. This is a question directed to any of the students who are have been in your classroom, and that is that did you ever have classes with another teacher in another subject where there was some kind of reminding of similar experiences in the classroom that meant as much to you as they obviously do in Jen's classroom? In other words, do you only experience this with her, or can you achieve certain experiences similar to this in another classroom on another subject with another teacher?
Is there anybody who would like to take a stab at that one?
I will.
Okay.
I actually have experienced the thinking classroom before in high school in one of my math classes in grade 10. I had a teacher who did kind of approach the math class kind of in a similar mannerism of the thinking classroom. And it definitely, I remember experiencing it. It was kind of in a funky time because we were in the COVID way of high school. So we had multiple hours of this class and then switching on and off during the weeks. So I'm trying to like recall exactly how the math class worked, but I do remember specifically that we would kind of start with a generalized question or a generalized idea of previous knowledge that we might know about something, and then applying it to a math problem or applying different types of concepts to that specific problem. And once we answered the question and we were satisfied with our answers, our teacher would come on and add something to that question to help build up kind of to reach an end goal, but taking it into smaller bits and pieces was really, really helpful, I found, just because instead of receiving all this knowledge immediately and trying to work with it and figure it out, you actually start from the bottom and build your way up and you understand how you got to the end process. So I've experienced thinking classroom before, however, definitely much more memorable in the class that I've had in grade 11 and 12, mostly just because of the circumstances, I think, and also just the subject areas as well. I really enjoy biology.
Casey, I'm thinking Michael's question has led me to recall that you actually, I'm not sure that you'd experienced it somewhere else, but you certainly did a project, didn't you, to try to shift the way another class was working. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So this is my summative task, right, that you're talking about?
Yeah,
In my other class?
Yeah, in the other class. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a class that was very it was a lot of psychology, and it was in the social sciences kind of area. And for our final task, we got to actually pick something that we were interested in and present it based off of the concepts that we learned in that course. And I found actually in well, even in that class, it was a lot of the autopilot stuff that we've been talking about for everyone in that class. It was a lot of sitting down, you'd sit in the classroom, take notes, you'd listen, you'd write essays, and I didn't find it super engaging. And I think a lot of my peers shared that same attitude towards it. So I did a summative project talking about the psychology behind these thinking classrooms and how it can help a variety of different students, and how it actually has a lot of positive impacts on not only students who struggle financially, students who struggle with their mental health, and even students with Indigenous backgrounds. It helps all of them with their learning just due to various reasons, makes them feel more comfortable in the classroom, makes them feel more engaged in their learning, which then actually leads to higher results. And I thought that was really interesting. And I had a good discussion with that teacher afterwards about the applications of the thinking classroom and what it means to kind of bring this into a high school classroom. And do teachers have the responsibility to prepare their students for university and other things like that? But additionally, in that project, I was talking about how some universities have also begun to realize that the psychology behind the normal way of learning is actually not the best way. So a lot of universities like Harvard, and I think McMaster has been another one that has been kind of straying and trying out different ways of doing evaluations, everything like that.
Sometimes you can measure the successful quality of a teacher by the way in which their students articulate the learning they've experienced in that classroom. And Jen, what a tribute to you that we have all of these young people here tonight who are so articulate and so impassioned by their lives and by the careers they see ahead of them. So congratulations to all of you, and Jen, a strong tribute to the effects you've had on these people.
Might not surprise you that Casey is very interested in education.
Are there any other questions before I can certainly move on? Casey, you just brought up something that again was a theme that emerged through a lot of the conversations I had with students, and it's the connection between the culture of learning in a classroom and people's well-being, students' well-being. And I couldn't believe the degree to which that was spoken to so articulately. I think we've heard from all the students twice, so I'm going to leave it open. Would anybody like to take a stab at that? Why is that the case? Why is it you think that when you have a culture of learning that does provide voice and choice, it actually makes people feel better in themselves? What's all that about?
I think in my experience, when you start to feel interested in something and you can talk about that and have kind of like a sense of like, oh, I know what I'm talking about because you absorb it when you're interested in it. Um, it can really give people the right amount of confidence they need to be able to believe in themselves to continue with their education. So in my case, before COVID, my goals were to go into kinesiology and to become a sports physiotherapist. So I was really, really driven in school. I loved school. And then high school hit, COVID hit, and I hated it. I couldn't sit in a classroom. I just wanted to be outside running. And since grade 10, grade 11, I had a really cool experience where I was able to participate in a firefighting camp, which the goal was to get women into firefighting. And now I'm pursuing a goal in policing. So by being in a classroom with Miss Banse, I was able to kind of take some information from her, learn about it, and then tell my parents about it, tell my friends about it, and then apply it to things that I'm doing in real life, which kind of gave me the opportunity to be like, wow, I'm actually learning. I'm getting a lot more confident. And I feel like I can actually do something. Like, I feel like I have another goal to strive towards, and I'm able to actually believe in myself. And it really helps when you have a teacher that believes in you too.
In terms of your well-being now, if you could put it on a 1 to 10, that's a silly way of doing it. Now I'm falling into the trap of conventional education systems. You're telling us that there is a tangible difference in how you feel about yourself, and part of that is a result of how you've experienced learning over the course of time.
Totally. And I can see it in my peers as well. Because I think a big part of being a high school student is you're kind of told like, oh, you have to get good grades, you have to do great on your tests, you have to do the really advanced classes. And when you're not, you have lower expectations from everyone around you. Like, you can start to see the difference in the way that people kind of ask about your career, like, oh, what do you want to do eventually? Because I had a really unique experience. Well, not unique, I know a lot of people have done it, but I went from being super academic, doing math competitions, taking university level courses, to dropping down to college courses, not liking school as much, and drifting away. So I found that once I was in a class where I felt like I was actually learning a lot because I was able to connect it directly to things that I was interested in, my overall well being skyrocketed. Because not only was I seeing the effects of, wow, I put in the effort, I put in the work, I'm learning, I'm feeling great about myself, my confidence is up. But I was also starting to be able to talk to my teachers about, this is what I want to do with this. Like, I got a good grade in this class because I want to do something with that.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Presley, well-being and the nature of the culture of learning is connection for you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself early on, maybe elementary school and stuff, and I kind of thought that I was maybe like dumb almost, and was kind of not reaching my full ability. And then I kind of, went into this way of learning, and I kind of realized that it was just how I was learning was not what was best for me. And then once I was actually reaching where I needed to be, it was actually something that was really like empowering and made me feel good. That, I wasn't a dumb kid. It was just that I needed to have a different experience. And it was something that, like, after doing that, I would take college classes. And now, like, I'm more open to taking higher level courses and pursuing a level of education after high school that's maybe different than college. And it's given me more confidence, like Ryan said, to do different things.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being so open in that answer. Thank you. Stan, over to you for some
Yep,
questions.
I got 3 questions. So we're going to start with Goran, then Blaine, then Lindsay. So Goran, go ahead. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry about that. That
There we
most
go.
commonly uttered sentence on Zoom. I just wanted to say that it's less of a question and more of a comment, because for many of us, that have been involved in education or creativity or innovation, we often hear this notion that there is a lot of genius in everyone, and that it's just a question of finding ways of how to liberate it. And what better example than this wonderful expose that we have been privileged to see here today, that really showcases, I think, precisely that given the right circumstances, there is just a lot of genius that comes out naturally. So thank you all. I just wanted to offer a quick reflection.
Goran, Blaine.
Mine too is more of a comment than a question. I was struck by the work that Peter was doing with the classroom teacher, and also with the application of the thinking classroom. And it struck me that when we were talking about acquisition model, and I think one of the speakers before me had mentioned that, the idea that students were operating on autopilot illustrates a focus on the whatness of teaching. What is to be learned, the subject matter, and all the rest of it. When you switch to a thinking classroom, now you're focused on a very different howness, and the methodology opens up to the who-ness of each student. And when you give them place and space and choice and voice, then you offer them two important things. Number one, you offer them the fact that you value them. And number two, you're validating their particular perspective. So I think that this, bringing it all together, is an incredible way of allowing students to tap into their imagination, their creativity, and to redefine for themselves and for others the whole notion of education.
Thanks, Blaine. Lindsay.
Yes, so I also a little comment about how well-being and learning flourishes with voice and choice. Carrying on from what you just said about being able to see a person in their learning and value who they are and what they're expressing that they've learned. They have a sense of success, which gives them more courage, gives them courage for stepping out and trying something that they might fail at. If we can be successful first, then maybe we can make some mistakes. And it sounded like the thinking classroom does that. It starts with what you know, and builds from there. And the other thing that I always like to bring in about what helps us flourish and that choice and voice offers us is the chance to relax. And just if I have a choice, it helps me relax. And if I'm a little bit more relaxed and not on fight or flight, I'm gonna receive better and put out more, and yeah. So, and the challenge by choice philosophy of being able to participate up to the level that we feel comfortable, and then getting successful and moving from there. I love it.
Thanks, Lindsay. Sharon.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that I've had the privilege of being one of 60 educators at Reggio Emilia, where the interest of the student is the focus of what the teachers do in art. And because this is familiar to me, that aspect, I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm sorry. For whatever reason, I don't have a hand up button, but I do have a question for whenever you can let me have one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Marie.
Sorry about that. I'm doing this on my phone and it's not really coming up. Anyways, I really appreciate the sharing. I'm a principal of a school that's pre-K to grade 3. And we do a lot of this kind of teaching with our littles because, of course, that's how they learn. They don't do well with lecture style and things like that. We also have digital portfolios, which we use to try to express their learning in different ways. So I really appreciate these examples from a high school level, and excited to maybe bring this to a college and university level as well as an instructor. So my question to Jen is, how did you mark this? Because that is the golden question in the older grades. How did you get to a percentage mark or things like that, which is quite typical in high schools, unless your high school is very different. So just asking about the marking system.
Sort of a couple parts to this. I do quite a few verbal evaluations as well as written, and we do a lot of informal evaluations as well. So when the students are working at the whiteboard, they're welcome to share their knowledge with me at any given moment once they've been working through a task. I've been using levels for quite a long time. That's part of our growing success document for Ontario. And so I've been using levels, and I've gone from an approach in science. There's a lot of testing that's multiple choice, fill in the blanks, short answer, diagrams, things like that. And my model is more of an open-ended question. So the students get a few open-ended questions on their I call them opportunity to demonstrate your learning. So that's what we call any of our evaluations, whether it's verbal or written. And the idea is to ask them a question or a series of broad questions where everybody has something to say about it, because everybody has learned something about the topic. So you're not asking like pinpointed questions where you may not have memorized, that idea, but you do know quite a bit about it. And I just find by opening that up, everybody has something to contribute. And so the levels in our growing success document, there's, a 4+ is a certain grade range. And so you can give a level, but for seniors, especially 12s going to university, you can associate a grade with that.
Thanks so much, Jen. I just want to give an opportunity for a chance to have, hear a few words from Richard King, the principal. Richard is very committed to bringing this type of shift to learning environments wherever he can. And it's not an easy task, Rich. I know I tried this for many, many years as a principal and as a superintendent. Trying to shift a system is a fascinating task. Why is it so difficult, Rich?
I think people are just resistant to change, Pete. They don't want to change a system that's been in existence for more than 150 years. There's a certain comfort in that. And I just want to make a few comments now that I have the floor.
Yep.
On a comment that Ryan made regarding going down to college level.
Yes.
I do take I have an issue with that, in the sense that the college pathway is just a different pathway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any better. It's not any worse than university or anything else. So just to point that out to you, Ryan, there's nothing wrong with the college pathway. It's a completely viable pathway. The second comment I wanted to make about what's been said tonight is, we have that group of students in our schools that play school very well.
Hmm.
They follow the
Sorry,
rules.
Rich, what did you just say?
They play school very well.
Right.
They follow the rules. They do what they need to do. They sit down, they take notes, they memorize the test, and they regurgitate anything.
Yep.
And I'm not sure they really learn. Whereas the students, as you can see tonight, the students in Ms. Banse's class are learning. They are developing, they're learning incredible things, and it's self-driven, which is spectacular.
Yep.
And that's the best kind of learning. So I congratulate Ms. Banse, and I congratulate all of her students for what they're doing in class. It's absolutely remarkable. I go into that classroom as often as I possibly can. And like you, Peter, I'm amazed by what I see. The level of engagement in there is incredible.
Well, and I'd like to just express my thanks to you, Rich, as well as to Jen and the kids. But it's not easy as as the administrator to make a stand and actually to say things like you've just said. I'm going to be putting out, I did about a 10-minute interview with Rich at the very beginning of this process, and it is a very good interview. I've got it on my YouTube channel. I'm going to send it out along with about maybe 15 of the interviews I've got with kids. Take a look out for them. Honestly, it's jaw-dropping to see some of the stuff that's going on as you've got a glimpse into. All right. Thank you. Before you take over, Stan, I just want to say thank you to Jen. I'm going to get the names wrong. Thank you to Casey. Thank you to Ryan. Thank you to Presley. Thank you to who have I missed out? Sophie. Did I get you all? Thank you so much. And come and see us on April the 20th, where they will be one of the human table stories at the conference in Ottawa, Creativity as a Force of Social Transformation. Thank you.
Nice. I got room for about 2 more questions. So Gerard, go ahead. You're up.
So the idea of playing education or playing learning is interesting to me. I don't work in the school system. I've worked for more than 20 years in community-based education, working with a lot of the folks that would have struggled in the formal education system. And I'm actually one of those. I'm 60 years old, and I'm one of those people that really struggled in the formal education system. Unfortunately, there was nothing like a thinking classroom model when I was there. And I'm just wondering, you know, how much of that thinking classroom model is kind of trickling down to those students, you know, and I want to thank the students that are here tonight, really celebrate all their successes. But there are a lot of students that are facing a lot of challenges, whether it's mental health issues or learning challenges. And sometimes they're not always properly assessed. And I know that because I've worked with some of those folks over the years. I'm just wondering where that model fits within that that group. So
I can comment on that quite a bit, I think.
Yeah.
I've taught quite a few classes of students who would fit into the category that you're talking about. And we've done these small passion projects. I had 3 boys last year who did passion projects on fixing my grandpa's truck, and this was for grade 10 science. And so we tied the curriculum to fixing their grandpa's truck, which was really important to them. And I learned about 2-stroke engines and dirt bikes and things that I have no idea about. But we really tried to pick with those kids just something they were passionate about, and we found some way to link it to science, because everything links to science somehow. And 2 of the boys from that class are taking my college level biology class this semester. And I'll be honest, they've admitted to me, I don't like biology, but I'm here because I like this space. And so that fits along with the whole mental health piece and you know, kids who have always felt that they weren't successful in school and you know, might be at risk for skipping class a lot or dropping out. I have a lot of those students in that class, and they're actually happy to be there, and they're meeting success. Like they're like super happy when they get a passing grade on a biochemistry test, and they're seeing more success than they've seen in the past, and they're starting to really see value in themselves.
Thanks, Jen.
Wow, well, what a fascinating evening this was, and we kind of knew that was going to come. Last question, Ainsley, go ahead.
Thank you. This question is directed to Jen. As a person who was a principal at the elementary secondary level and then worked in central office, I'm intrigued and constantly been intrigued by what was the incentive that gave you the courage to decide that you wanted to change how you went about teaching biology in your classroom, and how has it been received by your colleagues, your fellow teachers? The question presumably is, are you a loner in the school and looked upon with some degree of skepticism, or are your colleagues embracing what you're doing, given the experiences that the kids are able to talk about so articulately?
There's definitely, to answer the last part first, some embracing by a few. I have one teacher who's new this semester at the school who's I've given her all of my thinking classroom stuff for the grade 10 science, and she's trying it out, and we're working together to collaborate. But I also do get a lot of the, well, that's okay for you, but I can't do that, or, you know, that would never work for me. And just sort of people don't like change, like Rich was saying. And, but people have mostly been supportive. There's a little bit of not support, but I keep going with it. And it's been such an amazing thing for my students. And there's so much magic that happens that it's worth it. It doesn't matter what other people say. And how did I get to this point in my career? So I was a really good student. I was good at the system. I was good at memorizing. I got to university, and in fourth year, they wanted me to do this big research project and design the entire thing myself. And nobody had ever taught me how to think critically and plan something out. I just followed procedures and memorized and not really learned that skill. And so that was a really big learning experience for me. And then in my first or second year of teaching, I had a student named Allison, who was this lovely, wonderful student. And she just couldn't understand her junior science topics. And from sort of that point on, I made it my mission to always try new things to see what approaches could, you know, support the largest number of students. So for me, that's been the thinking classroom model for the last 4 years now, and doing verbal and written evaluations so that students can practice both, because they'll need both of those in their life. And the idea of the random groups and collaboration discussion, if you're going to go and be a paramedic, or you're going to be a pharmacist, or you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be anything in retail, you need to be able to talk about the subject area that you're now the expert in. And the thinking classroom just gives those skills that maybe we don't work on so much in school. And it's just been sort of a mission to always try new methods. And this is sort of where I've landed, and I'm always trying new things anyways, but the thinking classroom has sort of been the final piece, along with lots of choice and voice for the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You might be interested in some work that a professor at the University of British Columbia Okanagan campus is doing here with the use of dogs in classrooms, called BARK, B-A-R-K. You might want to look that up. It probably would fit nicely with your biology work. So.
Great, thank you.
We have reached that magic time, so I do want to thank you, Peter, thank you, Jen, thank you, Richard, and especially to the students for a very engaging conversation this evening, and to everybody, right? This is one of the main reasons why we love coming back to this place every month. So thank you very much for making our March Idea Jam very special. We want you all to know that Scenic is socially connected. Believe it or not, check out our website at www.canadianNetworkForImaginationAndCreativity.com. That is all one big giant word. We can also be found on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. So find us online for more information and links to register, of course, for the Idea Jam, see our bios, view our past Idea Jam sessions and chats, and some other helpful information about what's coming up in the next little bit. Speaking of which, Odyssey of Discovery is happening in a very few short weeks. So Scenic is going to be having our first ever live experience happening on April 19th and 20th right here in Ottawa, Canada. So our event, of course, called Odyssey of Discovery, promises to be an event to remember, and we are very excited. We are basically taking all of the energy of this, adding a pile more, and then putting it right up in your face. So stay tuned to all of your usual channels, because we're going to have a lot more details coming out very quickly in the next little while, as this is very fast approaching. But if you need more immediate right now information, you can, of course, get a hold of one of our steering committee members, Michael Wilson, at mpwilson@uottawa.ca. We are really excited about this, and like the time is coming up quickly, so we're hoping you can join us. As we close for the evening, we thank you again for joining us this past hour, and we look forward to seeing those of you who can join us at Odyssey next month. The next and final idea jam for this season will be happening in May. So we're skipping April because of our live event. So it will be happening in May on May 16th, and it will be hosted by Mingyu Lin, and it's called When the Ugliness Sing. So keep an eye on your emails for that reminder, and please join us then. On behalf of all of us here at Scenic, we wish you a great night. We hope you've had a wonderful evening with us, and we hope the rest of your March is going to be just as fantastic as today was. We're excited to see you next month in person, and we're glad that you made that time with us this evening. We're looking forward to seeing you again in May as well. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Thanks all.
Thank you.